Welcome once again to our online worship service. I am Jim Smith, pastor of San Antonio Heights Community Church here in Upland, California. Thanks for joining us. We're glad you did. Hey, we are starting a new series on the parables of Jesus, and it's going to be a lot of fun. Jesus told stories almost every time he was in front of a crowd, and they loved those stories. I mean, people would listen to Jesus' stories all day long. In fact, they listened sometimes so long, they missed their meals. I'll get into one of those stories in a little bit, but first, here's a song by Emily.
Grander earth has quaked before, moved by the sound of his voice, and seas that are shaken and stirred can be calmed and broken from my regard. And through it all, my eyes are on you. Through it all, it is well. Through it all, my eyes are on you, and it is well with me.
Thanks, Emily. Well, here we go through our series on the parables of Jesus. And let me tell you a little bit about the parables. Jesus often talked in parables. In fact, it says this. Matthew writes this. Jesus always used stories and illustrations like these. He had just talked about a story, a parable. And so Matthew said, kind of like these parables, he always used these when speaking to the crowds. In fact, he never spoke to them without using such parables. Parables are an illustration, a story that brings home a biblical truth. And Jesus used those all the time. And there's always kind of a reason, a punchline that Jesus wants to bring when he's telling these stories. And so you see the circumstances surrounding the reason he told a story. And then he uses the story to illustrate the main point. So don't get carried away on trying to spiritualize every part of these stories. There's usually one main point. And think about that as you listen to these stories. But they're amazing and they're a lot of fun. And everyone knows these stories. You know, there's throughout our culture, you know, you have planting a seed. And people always, I'm just planting a seed. Or the prodigal son. People know about that. Or there's a story of the lady who lost her coin or lost the sheep. People kind of know those stories. They go, I've heard that somewhere. Not sure where and not sure what it means. Well, we're actually going to look at the three stories that bring home one main point. Luke chapter 15. And go to Luke chapter 15. That's where we're going to find three parables, one right after another, to bring home one main point. And I have to tell you, these stories remind me of something that happened to me and my wife years ago. We had two kids, I think, at the time, and we were at a big department store and looking through the racks of clothes, trying to pick out some clothing for our kids. And my eldest daughter had wandered off. And you know, in the department stores, you have all these clothes racks. And if you go inside, underneath the clothes racks and the circular ones, it's kind of like a little house. And you can look up and see the lights of the ceiling, and then you're surrounded with all these clothes, and it's kind of safe with all these people. Little did I know that my oldest daughter wandered off and went into these little forts or homes. When I'm looking around, I can't find her. I can't find my daughter. First of all, I'm just looking, and I asked my wife, Vicki, did you see Amy? No. And then I'm looking around more and more, and I can't find her. Then I'm panicking, and I'm looking, and I'm scrambling, and I don't care who's looking at me. I might have looked like a very disheveled father, and I was. I just wanted to find my daughter. Where is she? And then I'm going, Amy! Amy! And I'm looking all over, and then some store attendant comes and says, can I help you, sir? And I go, yeah, I lost my daughter. What's she look like? Red hair, long, and everyone's looking for my daughter, and I don't care. I'm frantic, trying to find my daughter. Did someone kidnap her? No, she was safe in that little circular clothing rack. And when she comes out, and I found her, she goes, hi, Daddy. In fact, a store clerk found her and brought her. Is this your daughter? I go, yes. Amy! I was so excited to see her. Everyone else was too, because the kind people around go, what's she look like? And I'm telling everybody. And we all celebrated the fact that I found my daughter. Jesus is telling three stories in somewhat similar fashion. Luke chapter 15, there's how it starts. Tax collectors and other notorious sinners. I like how they just separated tax collectors. Like they're the worst. They have their own category of sinners. And it's like tax collectors and then all other notorious sinners. But tax collectors, they're the worst. That's how Matthew starts out. Luke chapter 15. Tax collectors and other notorious sinners often came to listen to Jesus teach. And by the way, I'm reading from the New Living Translation. This made the Pharisees and teachers of religious law complain that he was associating with such sinful people. even, and get this, eating with them. Oh, can you imagine that? Jesus was associating with sinners. He talked with them. He ate with them. And he even told them stories. Why are you hanging around such notorious sinners? And the Pharisees were good at that. You just don't associate with people. I mean, you are a religious, at that time, Jewish person. You don't associate with Gentiles. You certainly don't go into their house. You don't talk to them. And Jews themselves, if they don't follow the custom, they're bad. And they had half-Jews called Samaritans, and don't associate with them. And Jesus is a bit upset. I'd say more than upset. This angers Jesus. We're talking about prejudice. We're talking about people that just think because of the color of their skin or their background that they are more special than anyone else. And it happened back in Jesus' time, and it happens today. You have the anger over the blacks and some of the rioting that's going on today. Even in India, a decade ago, they had riots in parts of India because someone murdered a Hindu priest. And some people just whispered it was the Christians. And all of these riots occurred, and Christians were being killed and persecuted. Their homes were being burnt. It wasn't true. A communist later on confessed that he killed the Hindu priest. Didn't matter. Christians suddenly were the target of everyone's anger. And you see this happening all over the world. The color of your skin, your background, your lineage. And Jesus is addressing this because he says, you know what? All people matter to God, and especially lost people. Lost people matter to God. All of us are sinners. All of us are lost, meaning we can't find our way to happiness. We can't find our way to joy. We can't find our way to peace. We just can't find our way. We're lost. We need help. We need answers. We need someone to give us something to hang on to, especially during these times. And Jesus knew that the only way to finding all that is salvation, is believing in Jesus and going through Jesus. Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. I'm the way. You come through me and I'll give you what you need. And so he's looking around seeing these people. You're upset that I'm hanging around lost sinners? Well, let me tell you some stories. And so he tells 3 parables back to back. One story a lot of people know, it's the story of a shepherd. He goes, imagine if you were a shepherd. And a lot of people there can imagine that because they were shepherds. And shepherds were one of the low people on the totem pole in the economy of Israel back then. Shepherds smelled like sheep. They slept by the sheep. They cared for the sheep. But people didn't like shepherds. They didn't believe in what the shepherds said. They didn't even have a voice in the court of law. Their testimony was not accepted. And so Jesus, though, he knew a lot of people were shepherds. And so he used this story. He said, imagine if you're a shepherd and you have 100 sheep. You're caring for 100 sheep. And those sheep, they are your livelihood. That's where you get your meager income. And one sheep is not in the fold. One sheep is somewhere out there, lost. Maybe a hoof is caught in a branch. Maybe this wool is caught in a thicket. One sheep is lost. What do? You say, oh, well, casualty of war. That's just one less sheep I have to worry about. No. Jesus is talking about a good shepherd who cares for his sheep. And he says, listen, wouldn't you, as a good shepherd, you'd close the gate, make sure those 99 sheep were okay, and you would go look for that one sheep? And he said, this is what this one shepherd did. He closed the gate and he went looking for the little sheep. Looking for that little sheep. Where are you, little sheep? Little sheep. And he went up in the cliffs and he would go over the valleys and look by the rapids by the stream, looking for this little sheep, this little lamb. And then Jesus said, when he found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders And when he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, 'Rejoice with me, because I found my lost sheep.'" And then Jesus goes right into another story. He says, suppose there was a lady, and once there was. And this lady had lost a coin. I mean, it was a special coin. It was solid gold. It was valuable. And she didn't have much. And she kept this coin in her pocket. But then when she goes into her pocket, it's gone. Somewhere in her house, somewhere out in the sidewalk, the walkways, her coin is there. And she starts sweeping all over the house looking for this coin. Have you ever lost your wallet? Have you ever lost your credit cards? Have you ever lost your keys, your phone? I mean, you feel like you're naked without your phone. Where is it? This lady's frantically looking for her coin. And then she finds it. Isn't that a great moment in your day when you find something that you have lost? And Jesus again tells about this lady. And when she finds it, that little coin, she will call in her friends and neighbors and say, "Rejoice with me, because I found my lost coin." Here it is. I found it. I mean, it's just fantastic. You go, "I got my keys. I found my keys." You're just excited to tell people that you found something. Personal story, I just go crazy when I lose things. Ask all my kids. Yeah, Dad is focused. If he's lost something, he can't think of anything else. He's just looking all over. Where is it? I go crazy. When my kids were younger, I said, "Hey, everyone, look for this." I would offer them, and I'm cheap, I would offer them $5. Whoever can find this, $5. That was a big deal. I'm kind of focused that way. Jesus goes right into another story. And everyone knows this story as well. The prodigal son. Verse 11. To illustrate the point, and remember there's one point. To illustrate this one point, what is the one point? Hopefully you're getting it. Lost sheep, searching, finding it, rejoicing. Lost coin, searching, finding it, rejoicing. There's a man who had 2 sons, going to give the inheritance. The younger son says, "Give me all my money. I want to go out and spend it now." So he does. He spends it foolishly and ends up broke. Ends up working for a farmer, putting in food for pigs. He's actually starving, so he's eating some of the food that the pigs are eating. And he's thinking, I could do way better if I'm working on my father's farm. At least I have a bed to sleep on. I'm going to go back, apologize to my dad, ask him if I could just work on the farm. I'm going to go back. This life that I chose was a dumb idea. That was just a dumb idea. I was thinking I was up in the northern peninsula, the upper peninsula of Michigan, and looking down these dunes that go into Lake Superior. It's at Pictured Rock National Park. And these dunes, I think, go down 500 feet. And there's signs all over the place. Fun to go down, hard to give up. So I just was on the top looking down. Hey, it looks fun. And I see this one kid climbing up. He's about halfway, but you can hear him. He goes, "That was a dumb decision to go down. I can't make it up." His parents were up on the top saying, "Hey, just rest. You're halfway there. You'll get there." You know, sometimes you have to think before you speak, think before you do something. Prodigal son, he didn't think. He just went out, spent all his money, ended up broke, miserable life, comes running or walking, crawling home down the road. But the amazing thing was his dad always, it's implied, was looking down that road, waiting, hoping that his son, his wayward son, his prodigal son would come back. Verse 20, so he returned home to his father, and while he was still a long way off, his father saw him coming. Filled with love and compassion, he ran to his son, embraced him, and kissed him. His son said to him, "Father, I've sinned against both heaven and you. I'm no longer worthy of being called your son." But his father said to his servants, "Quick, bring the finest robe in the house and put it on him. Get a ring for his finger and sandals for his feet. Obviously, his shoes were bad or didn't have any shoes. It was a mess. Said, kill the calf we've been fattening. We must celebrate with the feast. For this son of mine was dead and has now returned to life. He was lost, but now he is found. So the party began. Jesus is telling this story, and as he's telling this story, you imagine he's telling this great group of people just engage with the stories. They love Jesus' stories. But Jesus is also looking right at the Pharisees, who are so critical of him having a relationship with sinners. He goes, here's the point. And there's three I think you can get. But it all settles down that we need to mingle and actively engage with the lost, the people that don't know Jesus. Engage in their life so we can share the good news with them. And here's three things. In all three, you can see that something of great value was missing. Something of great value was missing. The little sheep, or it could have been a big sheep, but it was a lost sheep. The coin and the son. All three very valuable to the shepherd, to the woman, to the father. Very valuable. Very valuable. And we have to realize how valuable people are to God. All people. Lost people matter to God. God is compassionate and merciful, and it just matters. We have to realize how special people are to God. Lost people are to God. God cares for everybody. He cares for you and your neighbors and your friends and your enemies. He wants lost people to be found. Lost people are lost. They don't know why they're doing what they're doing. They don't really have a purpose in life. They might think they have a vision, a purpose, but it's all vain. It's all for naught. Jesus once said, what if you conquer the whole world but forfeit your soul? What a waste. He says, you matter to me, but I want you to understand what's important. So Jesus is telling us a story. Something of great value was missing. And we have to realize what we value. I was in Thailand just last year and enjoying the sights of Chiang Mai, Thailand. We had some meetings with some missionaries and church leaders over there. I had a friend with me from the States, and we had hung together and saw some of the sights and went to the meetings together. And we got checked into the hotel around the same time, and a wonderful employee of the hotel checked us in, took our passports, gave us our rooms, gave it back, took care of all the details. Put my passport back, and we enjoyed the days that were there. I had to leave earlier than everyone else, so I went to the Chiang Mai airport. I was getting up to the counter, and there, the person behind the counter said, can I see your ticket? Yes. Can I see your passport? And I took it out and gave it to her, and she took a long time. And sometimes when you're behind the counter or in front of a counter and the person behind the counter is taking a long time and they're looking, you start to get worried. I started to get worried. Is there something wrong? She goes, well, your passport and your ticket don't match. I go, how can that be? And she turned and gave it to me, and I looked at my ticket. It's fine. Looked at the passport, opened it. It was my friend's passport. I'm going, how did that happen? And then I realized when we checked into the hotel, she took our passports, and then somehow she just gave them back. We didn't look at our passports. I just said thank you and put it in my pocket. Never looked at it. I had my friend's passport. He would need that the next day. I needed it now. He's back at the hotel. I'm at the airport. Something of great value was missing. And I realized right there that that's what I had to focus on, getting that passport. I eventually got it, got on the plane. But that urgency is something that Jesus wants all of us to feel. That's the urgency when people are lost. He says, something of great value to me is missing. And he's telling these Pharisees who were upset that Jesus hung around with sinners, he says, listen, Lost people, people themselves, their lives, they're sick, they're sinful, they need a doctor. That's me. I'm bringing them eternal life. I'm bringing them an abundant life here on earth. I'm helping them with their lives. I'm bringing love, joy, peace, patience, gentleness, goodness, kindness, self-control into their lives. I'm bringing so much. They need help. The second thing is that we need to realize that which was missing was important enough to warrant an all-out search. Jesus just told the story that the shepherd left everything and searched for the sheep. The lady dropped everything and cleaned the house looking for the lost coin. The father regularly, constantly, urgently looked out the road, hoping his son was going to come back. An all-out search for that which is of great value that's missing. An all-out search. Just be obvious that you're a believer. Be obvious. We have to be salty. Jesus says we're the salt of the earth, and so we need to bring seasoning, flavor, wherever you go, positive flavor. We need just to build avenues and bridges of friendship. Get to know your neighbors. Get to know the people at work. Get to know your co-workers. Just get to know them, their names, their hobbies. And just be ready. People might all of a sudden see you and say, what's with you? And then the third point, as Jesus is coming, retrievals result in rejoicing. There's just a party in heaven when one sinner comes to know the Lord. Again, that's what Jesus said. It says again in verse 10 of chapter 15, after he told the story of the woman who lost the coin, and then she celebrated. Verse 10 says this, in the same way, there is joy in heaven in the presence of God's angels, when even one sinner repents. You know, it's sad to say that so many people say, I'm going to just go to hell. I'm going to be with my friends. We're going to have a party down in hell. That's not right. The party is in heaven. Hell is a place of loneliness. Hell is a place of isolation and quarantine with sickness all around you and disease. It's a miserable place forever. The party is in heaven. Matt Chandler, who's a pastor out in Texas, big, large church, tells a story that during school, one of his schoolmates in the locker next to him wrote him a note and said, I need to tell you about Jesus. When do you want to do that? Matt Chandler eventually talked to him and eventually became a believer in Jesus Christ. All of us need to realize that we need to associate with unbelievers. Now, this doesn't give us license to sin. I need to hang around people. I need to get drunk like them. I need to go to the parties. I need to talk like them. No, we're still supposed to be salt. We're supposed to be doing everything for the glory of God. And we are to be more like Jesus. More like Jesus. So in your conduct, you say, I want to be more like Jesus. But remember, Jesus was a friend of sinners. It's not your job to convert the lost. It's your job to proclaim the good news to the lost. Remember, get to know them, pray for them, share about the hope that you have inside of you, and then invite them. Invite them to church. There was a survey that said, there's millions of people that say they would love to go to a church. They just have never been invited to go to a church. And do you know Jesus as your Savior? If not, ask Him right now. Admit that you're a sinner. Believe in Jesus, that He is real, that He died for your sins and rose again. And then confess Him as Lord of your life. He is Lord. But say, you're Lord of my life. And give your life to Him. Just say this prayer. Dear God, I believe in Jesus. And I ask you to forgive me of my sins. All of my sins. I give my life to you. And there are some of you who are believers, but you need to recommit your life and say, God, I want to do more for you. I want to be on fire for you. I want to be urgently looking for people that need to hear about Jesus. Look for opportunities this week. Just pray, God, give me an opportunity. Have a great week. Bye-bye.